Hey everybody, I'm doing an IG live with Saif Al-Yasi. We're going to be talking about sugar, emotional eating, and the calorie myth, and a little bit about animal-based and carnivore diet. So let me send him an invite. Saif Al-Yasi. A lot of fun going back to my roots, the Middle East, reconnecting and seeing how it is over there right now. Hello.
Hello, doctor. How are you?
Good, good. Saif Al-Yasi. Nice to finally meet you and connect with you. Let me put it a little bit higher. That's better.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
discovered you on Jesselyn Randall's Instagram. You had like done collabs and posted Instagram reels, and I thought that you had a really interesting content, and I seem to agree with a lot of it. So it was very exciting for me to reach out. Are you in Dubai right now?
Yes, I am currently in Dubai, and thanks for your lovely introduction, and thanks for reaching out to me as well. And really happy to be on your live as well to discuss many things which I think it's very important to spread the awareness, and especially in this region, this part of the world. Yeah,
Yes. I don't think you know this, but I'm actually Lebanese. So
I
I
could
actually,
tell. Yes, I
yeah,
wanted to ask you, but thanks for clearing this
really,
up. Yes.
so a
Yeah.
lot of people in the States think I'm Latina,
Okay.
but because you're from there, you can see, I
Yes,
guess,
yeah, I can
yeah,
see.
the
Yeah, I
similarity.
thought that you might be Lebanese. Yeah. So do
Yeah,
you still
I,
speak
I,
Arabic or
I, أكيد.
أكيد.
Come on.
Okay,
I
okay.
I talk to my family, every
Yeah,
once in a while, and yeah, I mean, it's my native. You don't forget. I know French too, because in Lebanon, and actually, I think a lot of Arab states too will teach French, but in Lebanon especially so because we were a French colony. So Arabic is my native. I do pretty good French, but when I try to speak it because I don't have a lot of experience, I hesitate a lot, and
yeah.
obviously English, but. Yeah, I lived there all my life. And then at 25, I had just graduated with my master's in nutrition. And then I came here and I did my PhD at the University of Miami in exercise physiology and nutrition.
Amazing.
And yeah, I've been here since then.
Nice, nice, very nice.
So
Well,
how,
from my side,
huh,
yeah,
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask
yeah,
you.
yeah. My part of or my story is I've been here in UAE since 2005, and I'm working here ever since. Is my voice clear because I'm using the headsets?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. You think you can make it clearer?
I'll just speak out louder, probably, maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm understanding everything. I don't think we have
Okay,
a problem.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so I moved to Dubai from Iraq in 2005 and
Right.
been stuck here ever since. I would say stuck in a nice way because I got addicted to this place. I really like it, and I've seen a lot in this country. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's very nice from that point of view. So yeah, and I'm currently working as a general manager for a medical equipment company. We sell
Mhm.
ophthalmic equipment to hospitals and doctors. And my part-time job is a personal trainer. So I have
Nice.
my master's degree in personal training and nutrition as well. And also I do PT on the side,
Oh,
personal training.
petite. Right.
Yes. So yes, and yeah, right now I'm sitting in the restaurant of the gym in between clients. So
Um,
yeah, lovely to have a talk with you right now to see.
so you're a real hustler, full-time job and a part-time job, and you're building an empire on social media. So that's
Absolutely.
fantastic.
100%, yes.
Love it. You're my kind of people, always doing a gazillion things
Yeah,
at one time.
I always say that 24 hours a day is not enough for me. Give me more hours.
I,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know, I know.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm so excited to delve deep. One second, let me just turn on the fan. It's a little bit hot in my office here. One
All
second.
right. Okay.
All right. That's the perks of working from home. You can always be as comfortable as you want to be,
Yes. Thanks to
right?
COVID.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's start with some of the things that I feel we both have a shared interest in. So let's talk about sugar. Your
Yes.
thoughts on sugar?
It's the number one enemy from my side. I really, I was a very sugar addict person
Mm,
myself. I think if you go through my Instagram profile, the first picture that you will see on there, which I pinned on the top, is me when I first came to Dubai. I was always fit, but I lost it to the lifestyle of Dubai, and I kept on eating crap. I ate fast food, sugary diets, water. I never knew what water is. My it was always soft drinks
wow.
from morning till night. Yes. So that's where I lost it, and I became the person I was at a very younger age. So this is something that I felt and experienced myself. And from that time, I realized one day that there's something wrong. And I realized that it is the obsessive use of sugar. So I started cutting sugar slowly and gradually, and just eating like a regular person, eating everything. And I must say, like the first year of me in my transformation was I was eating even junk food, but I just cut sugar completely. And then I realized, like, okay, let's take it to the next level, cut processed food. And from there, I started eating at home, like searching for restaurants, Lebanese restaurants or Iraqi restaurants, which have like the proper uh, unprocessed food, like chicken or meat, rice as well. So yeah, that was my experience with sugar. And then I started thinking like, okay, I lost a lot of weight in just cutting the sugar or cutting down my sugar intake. So I started reading, and there I came to know 10 years ago, the very first, I think, YouTube video for Dr. Robert Lustig from the US. He's an endocrinologist and endocrinologist. So he started talking, yes. His famous YouTube video was the sugar, the bitter truth, something like that. Yeah,
Yes, that's it.
yeah. So I believed in every sentence that he said. So that triggered something in me, like because I experienced it myself. It's not something that somebody came and told me without me experiencing it myself. So when I started really knowing and digging into more behind the real enemy, which was sugar, definitely, I started realizing no, that this is the true enemy. And more like info, the more you search, the more you know, the more you understand what sugar is. It's just a disaster to what it does. And that takes us probably to the next topic, which we will be discussing later on, I think, which was the calorie, because people will come and say, like, yeah, I can have like 100 grams of or 100 calories of sugar, and I can get along with it and I can burn it. But that does not make sense to
Right.
what it does to the hormones and all of that. So yeah, I mean, this is my experience with sugar, and this is what I know about sugar. And I tell my clients, if you want,
Yeah.
let's start with something. If you want to put down your body fat percentage, let's start with cutting sugar. And they don't take it serious, but those who do, they see massive changes, and I are like, it gives them this wow effect, like, wow, I just cut sugar and this is what I got, and I'm eating normal. So it's something, as I said, I experienced myself. So it's not that you can't find this in literature. And obviously, we both studied this nutrition, and you took it more advanced than I am. So you might agree with what I'm saying, but you can't really know these details in what you studied. These are things which is outside.
No. Remember, traditional classroom instruction and traditional dietetics programs are set by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, who it literally works hand in hand with the sugar industry. You go to their conferences that they hold every year, and it's like walking into like a candy shop, you know?
Yeah.
They've got they've got stands for candy, soft drinks, all of the health bars that are really just pure sugar in disguise. They even have their own spokespeople giving out presentations as a form of continuing education credits for the registered dietitians. And so you will never hear anything negative that would lead dietitians to drastically cut down on 99% of the foods and that you would buy at the grocery store, you know? So we were brainwashed, and I say that all the time. It wasn't my education that led me to where I'm at right now. It was just like you, my personal experience that I woke up to the fact like, oh wow, this is an addiction. I had listened to Lustig's that viral TED, it wasn't a TED Talk, it was I think a University of California YouTube channel.
Yes.
And it went viral, right? But I wasn't ready. You know, that's the thing about addiction. You can be in denial, and you can you can see the studies about the addiction and say, yeah, you know, it's true. When you asked about it, you agree it's addictive. But if you're still not ready, it won't hit you the same way.
True.
Yeah.
You have to go through the process. You have to understand like what it does. So that's why I tell my clients, like, give it a try. Just start with some stuff which is like okay, like low sugar, or okay, let's substitute the sugar with fruits. Let's start from here,
right?
For example, in our culture, we drink the tea with loads of sugar in it. So this is something which is more addictive and like brings up the sweet tooth in every person. So I tell them, okay, let's do this. Let's replace. I cannot drink tea without sugar. That's how I started. So I replaced it with coffee. So my my caffeine intake is coming from coffee. So I started drinking the coffee from day one without any sugar. So these are the things that, or the tips that I have done to myself, which I tell my clients as well to follow. And some have the strength to go and cut the sugar entirely, and they tell me about the benefits that they have experienced and what kind of benefits they have experienced, like more energetic, they're very sharp, they're able to sleep well, they are able to function on day-to-day basis very well, because what's known to be in the market, or not in the market, why do I say market, in our culture, is that sugar is a must for energy, and it feeds the brain, it feeds your body. Which is ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, that's how we grew up.
It's so ridiculous, but I understand it because as dietitians, this is what we were taught. Actually, this is what they are teaching to this day, even here in the United States, you know? And it's like sugar is your main energy source. It's like, really? If it were our main energy source, how come babies don't run on it? They run on ketones. They are supposed to be in that ketosis state for as long as they're being breastfed. The moment you wean them off the breast milk, this is when you start shoving the bananas and the applesauce, and you kick them out of ketosis, right? Or that fat burning mode that they're supposed to be running in. It's such a critical time during brain development. And so it's mind blowing, you know, and I can only understand how frustrated you must be, because I'm so frustrated, and I'm in the States. Imagine in Dubai, in Lebanon, you know, in the Middle East. I know because I have all of my friends, they work in Dubai, you know, went to school together in Lebanon, and then a bunch of them went to Dubai. So I still stay in contact with them. And yeah, they just have to follow the book, you know, what we were told. And
yes. And they're thinking that's it, like they cannot come out of this books, and they cannot listen to anyone else, and whatever anyone comes up to them and tells them that this is the real reality right now, you need to know and understand, because there are, okay, where's your research? That's how they claim your info that you're giving them is wrong. Where's your research? Where's the research that is done? So
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. It's because, when you eat sugar, your body uses it right away. And so they've interpreted that as, your brain prefers sugar. It's like, no, sugar is so destructive to your capillaries, to your organs, that your brain literally freaks out. Your body's freaking out. And so it wants to protects you from all of the damage. So what does it do? It starts to clear it as quickly as possible, and it turns it to fat most of the time. And so that's a protective effect to protect yourself from a toxin. That's not indication that we need.
It is a toxin, yeah, and it's more toxic than even, I would say, even more than alcohol. Okay.
I agree with you 100%.
Yes, because for alcohol, for example, I mean, this is something for the families, for the fathers, for the mothers who give their kids without questioning, and they call it as a treat. They give them sweets and candies. And this is for me, like, I'm seeing them literally giving them a glass of wine, and they're okay and happy and enjoying it and laughing. Haha, my kid is drinking wine. That's how I see it. But how would you put that in the mind of the father or the parents? Or the mother,
Right.
like understanding how both are processed in the liver, it's exactly the same. It's
Right.
exactly the same, and like all the metabolic syndromes that happen because of alcohol and fructose, mainly, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. So, but my question is to those fathers and mothers who give their kids plenty of sugar every single day. Would you hesitate to give them a glass of wine?
Exactly.
Everyone will say no. Then why do you give them candy? Because candy is for
Exactly.
kids. That's how it's marketed, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean,
Intentionally
how to fight
marketed.
that? Yeah,
Yeah.
how to fight that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And let me give you an even stronger analogy you can give them. There have been a string of studies that came out around the year 2017 that prove that rats prefer the sweet taste. Doesn't have to be just sugar. It can be even artificial sweeteners. They prefer the sweet taste over heroin by a large margin.
Wow.
When I read those studies, I think that was the day when I snapped out of my denial. So when I'm dealing with my clients and they're trying to see if they can have some cake on their birthday, I ask them to reframe that question. Can I shoot some heroin because it's my birthday? It's like, then what would your answer be? You know?
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, it's just a treat, it's just one day. Well, it's up to you. I mean, it depends on how strong you are as a person. I did one video on an interview. It was like nothing related to fitness, but the guy who was interviewing me, he asked me one question, like, what would you advise the young men? It was mostly about masculinity and young men. So I told him, like, cut sugar. And everyone was like surprised and shocked, like what has sugar to do with what we're talking about? Because I see that sugar is destroying testosterone in men and also in women, in their
Yeah.
hormones. So men are not becoming as strong as they used to be. So that's related to addiction of sugar. And sugar nowadays is everywhere. Like when back in my days, I mean, it was so difficult to get like Coca-Cola. It was a treat for us, like literally it was a treat like per week probably, or per occasion. Like, so nowadays it's all over the place. It's easy to access, it's obsessive, like you can get it every time you want it. Anytime, just close your eyes, you'll get it. So this is adding more and more consumption of sugar per day in every person, and especially young at a young age. Now, okay, coffee, for example, milk, whatever they have right now, they replace the normal full-fat milk with almond milk, oats milk, which is also pure sugar as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not sugar table, but it's sugar. I mean, it's just all simple carbs coming inside
Yeah.
your body. So imagine how much consumption, if we're talking about calories, like normal calories. Yes, these could be counted as calories, but
Right.
how much are you adding? Is every person counting how much he needs? If we follow what the WHO is recommending per intake per person per day, everyone is like times 10 of that consumption per day.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
uh,
chilling, you know. And then when we get a virus like we had in the last 2 years, and everybody's talking about one thing, and literally censoring any professional talking about the immune system. The hashtag natural immunity was banned by Instagram for a very long time, so that people wouldn't be exposed to the fact that they actually have control over their immune system. And the fact that a CDC study, the Centers for Disease Control and Protection here from the United States, which is like our government, put out a study that showed that 78% of those who ended up in a hospital with COVID were either overweight or obese, 78%. So now, are we really, like, what are we dealing with here? It should have been all about the diet. It should have been all about lose the weight right now, yesterday, but nobody mentioned it, especially here in the States. I don't know how it was in the Middle East. It was taboo to talk about obesity, you know?
Yeah. And it's not just obesity, because a person will be addicted to sugar, but he's not having any subcutaneous fat. And we know, like, it takes like around 10 extra kgs of subcutaneous fat for a person to have symptoms of being sick, and it could take probably 2 kgs of visceral fat for a person to show some illness in him. But when it comes to fatty livers, it's only quarter kg, which means like 500 less. I mean, half a pound, I think, for in your in pounds.
Half a pound.
Half a pound. Imagine how that a person could be skinny, could be with 6 packs, literally no fat at all, but he is metabolic. He has all the syndromes, metabolic syndromes. Like, he could be sick as well. So it's not about fat. So it's about how much your liver is fat, how much sugar and alcohol have you been consuming throughout the years. And people will say, like, well, I've been eating sugar for years and I'm absolutely fine. It might not show now, but your immune system will go down, and later on you'll be exposed to several diseases in the future. As you mentioned about the COVID, I mean, young people who got hit by COVID, who passed away, that's the reason why.
Yeah.
That's the reason. Yeah. So
exactly, when they say, no, even some people are dropping dead from it, it's like, yeah, and then they'll put a picture of the person and they'll say a perfectly healthy. Just because the person, maybe if that person lived one more day, they would have been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, you know, but just because they don't have the label, they will say, oh, that person is perfectly healthy. And this is all intentional because unfortunately, when the medias rely on the ads from the food companies and the pharmaceutical companies in order to stay afloat, then they cannot go against the bottom line of these companies. And they have a ton of money. You know, the food industry is $1 trillion industry here in the States. That's just the food industry. Now add the pharmaceutical industry to that, and you see why we never heard once any mention of overweight and obesity and, you know, and the sugar and the food.
And look at it from this way. I mean, as I told you, I work in the medical equipment industry as well. USA for us is the most advanced country in terms of healthcare and machineries that you have, and as well as like the hospitals and the type of hospitals you have. Yet you are the most unhealthiest country in the world. Explain that to me. So with all the pharma companies that you have, with all the advanced technology that you have and you're exposed to, and which comes later on to us, you know, like we have machines which have been launched, we know, as a distributor for them in UAE. We know that this machine is out there in the US and you guys are enjoying the facilities of this new machine, but it takes time for us to have it in the Middle East. Yet you are the most unhealthiest country in the world. So how do you explain that? So look at the type of food that the Americans are eating at this moment and compare it to what the world is eating. So yeah, it's all about diet and all about the processed food, the sugar. So
the life expectancy of the United States is now also trending downward. So pretty much most countries' life expectancies took a hit around the pandemic, but then they recovered. We haven't recovered. So it's really sad.
And there's one thing that I've also read that the new generation will not live longer than us, and they will die younger. Yeah, again, that's because they are exposed to this processed food and sugar at a very younger age. I mean, women, mothers, they stop breastfeeding and they rely on milk, which is
Right.
all sugar. So imagine like an infant who's just consuming loads and loads of sugar at a very younger age, and how addictive he will be.
Right.
So, and how much unhealthy diseases he will be having growing up.
The, Yeah, the age of onset is a hallmark of addiction. So the more serious addictions are the ones that start at a younger and younger age. This is why when the tobacco industry was still in its heyday, they try to target minors, and they try to target children by doing the Joe Camel campaign, where it was a caricature of a camel on the, on the
Yes.
cigarette. And because a paper was published, a scientific paper was published showing how much that influenced the rate of smoking, and it raised dramatically the rate of smoking in children and teenagers, then we all took action and we went after them, and they discontinued that. And then right away, the rates of the cigarette smoking in teens dropped. And so that's because we established and everybody agreed that those cigarettes are addictive. You cannot market them to children. We're not even ready to accept, as politicians, as a society, we're not even in the first stage yet to accept that sugar is addictive, let alone prevent them from targeting our children, which exactly is what they're doing. What's the rule of Ronald McDonald? What's his rule?
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, can't agree more.
It's wild. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
uh,
That's
that,
sugar. I mean, and I hope people are really realize how bad it is and start, especially okay, not with yourself. You've been exposed to sugar for your entire life. Probably you think it's too late, which is not. I would tell you it's never too late to stop and fix everything in your diet and your lifestyle. But think about the kids, think about your new generation, think about how healthy they're gonna be. So try as much as you can to make them avoid sugar. I mean, what I do, me and my wife, what we do with our son is like we try our best to not to give him sugar at home, anything at home. But when he goes to school or when he goes like to parties, he will be
right,
exposed. I mean, this is something that we cannot really control. So what we do is
right.
we allow him to have, but with a very controlled amount. And
Yeah.
trust me, he doesn't really like it that much because he hasn't tasted it that quite often. So
Awesome. Yeah.
yeah, so
The more
yeah,
you allow time to pass since a hit, the more the dopamine receptors in the brain start to heal and regenerate, But every time he takes a hit, you're destroying some of his dopamine receptors. The problem is that you're constantly, especially here in the States, and well, anybody really around the world, they're constantly eating the sugars and the carbs every day. Your brain doesn't have a chance to recover that damage. So it accumulates, which is why now we have brain scans of obese individuals having the same brain scan as an alcoholic or a cocaine abuser. Probably even worse than an alcoholic, more destruction than dopamine.
exactly, yeah.
So
So
that's fantastic that you're doing that.
yeah. We're trying
Yeah,
our best. I mean, I'm trying our best. I'm being attacked, but yeah, my mission is not gonna stop.
right. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
You know what I tell people when they're skeptical? Try to stop the sugar. Just stop. And when I say sugar, by the way, here's the second part of this, the second level. Rice turns into sugar, right? Um, all kinds of carbs, all kinds of flours, grains turn into sugar immediately. Don't believe me? Everybody loves those CGMs, right? The
yeah,
continuous glucose monitor. Go
yeah,
buy one and see what your blood sugar is right after you eat that,
yeah.
right?
And
And so,
now,
mhm,
yeah, now it's everywhere. This these monitors. I mean, let them check and try and see how much spike they have in their blood sugar and what they're consuming. I would advise people to get one and track their blood sugar. Yeah,
exactly. Let's see. Somebody asking us a question. Let's interject some Arabic here.
yeah.
السلام عليكم. عمري 16 سنة من العراق وداريد أخذ whey protein. هل صحيح غير مناسب لعمري? Do you want to take that one?
Okay. No, let's hear from your side because I know what I mean, they know probably what I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. So
The
what's your
vast
advice?
majority, okay. The vast majority of proteins are pumped with artificial sweeteners and flavors and all. Like, just look at an Optimum Nutrition whey protein. Just turn it around, look at the ingredient list. Anything that has this paragraph on the back of it is not food. So that is a huge problem. If you must supplement to, you know, make it more convenient for you to put on muscle, at the very least get something that is, you know, very, very pure. But I don't think I've ever seen, maybe get like beef protein isolate. That might be a better option, but I don't
Um,
think you can do that with whey. Not to mention dairy sensitivities that almost most people end
yeah.
up having. They don't even realize they have it. Even if they don't have digestive symptoms, they might still be sensitive to it and not realize.
Yeah, so what I would say is exactly what you just said. These proteins are all artificial. They have a lot of artificial sweeteners, artificial preservatives as well to keep it, but they're all extracted from milk and in different ways. So whey protein is the least pure form of protein, which means it has still some lactose in it. It still has some fat and carbs as well. So the reason why people take protein should be is that they're not consuming enough protein from their meal and their body requires more protein, which is probably a case. That's why we allow for people to take protein. Now, can you ignore protein intake from supplements? Yes, you can, like I do. I take my protein intake entirely from food,
Mm.
and I don't need to supplement it at all. Okay, so when it comes to people who want to supplement, my advice for them is not to use the whey protein, rather than to use the isoprotein, which is the least in terms of additives and it's pure extraction of protein and less carbs and sugar in it. But when it comes to protein in general, I would 100% not allow people to consume the mass proteins and the gainer proteins, which means these are proteins that have enormous amounts of carbs in it to add up more calories to the
Mm.
protein, which means like by one scoop or two scoops, you're probably having 1,500 calories. But the
Yeah.
question is, what is this carbs? Now, the carbs that they use are not rice or potatoes, for sure. The carbs that they use are sugar, pure form sugar, okay, which is going to be cheap, and the cheapest is probably corn fructose syrup and the other sources of carbs. They're all carbs, so it's pure sugar that you're consuming. So my advice for them is to take the normal isoprotein, mix it, make a whey gainer protein shake or smoothie at home by adding some fruits like berries to the blender with a scoop or two of that protein, and you will have the same amount with peanut butter probably. You will have the same amount of calories that you can make in the kitchen at home rather than consuming it from a box.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
this is
I'm
something.
gonna, I think that's great. I'm sorry, you wanted to say one more thing?
No, 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 not at all.
Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to add to that is that the only that's so much better. And again, anytime you do it at home, go for it. You know, that's gonna be 100% better. The only caveat I would say is that if you have cravings for sugar, especially as the addiction has progressed, be careful because then even the taste of sweetness can trigger you, right?
Yeah,
Like even tasting, and especially when you blend it, it's like a direct hit. Then you gotta, you know, you have to watch yourself and you have to see because not everybody has a severe addiction. Like for me, I scored the most severe scale, right? Probably you too. And but then you have, you know, a third of the population that hasn't developed that full-blown addiction. And so they might be able to moderate, they might be having the fruits and no problem. If they decide to cut out the sugar, they can cut out the sugar and they can have the fruits and no problem, doesn't trigger them. If that's you, fantastic. So the only way to know is to try it and see it. But yeah, I love that, you know, we're both on the same page as it comes to the like science fair projects that they sell us, you know, healthy bodybuilding foods.
100%. I saw one question as well, like about sugar, and somebody asked, I think, is fruit included? Now, what do you have to say about fruits, for example, from your point of view?
What do you have to say about what?
Fruit.
Oh, my personal recommendation. So given that 86% of Americans have a food addiction, it's not just sugar addiction, it is sugar and fat, it's the cakes and the cookies, you know. I think that fruits are not recommended. I don't eat them. I don't recommend them to my clients. I don't recommend them in general. The only person that can handle fruits are children raised in a sober life, meaning we've never given them, never exposed them to the drug, which is sugar. And so they've never developed an addiction. Their brains didn't get sensitized to sugar. Then they could eat fruits, but only the fruits that mimic the kinds of fruits that were available to us for 99.99% of our existence as a species here on Earth, which were very tiny and low sugar fruits. So things like berries are okay, but things like mango are not okay, even if that child never got his or her brain sensitized to the sugar.
Yeah, that's interesting. Also, I wanted to ask you about the acai, for example. It's very modern now.
The acai
it's a new
bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not recommended. Remember, the acai is actually a berry that belongs to the nightshade family of vegetables. So it's actually a nightshade. If people don't know what nightshades are, they are one of the most inflammatory plant foods you can put in your body. So all plants don't want to be eaten in general. And so they pump out chemicals and toxins to prevent us from consuming them. But you have a subset of plants that are particularly defensive against being eaten, and those are the nightshades. So those include the eggplants, the baba ganoush, the tomatoes, the peppers, the white potatoes, and the things like the goji berry, and actually nicotine too. We don't eat nicotine, but if you were to eat it, it's a nightshade. So yeah, goji berries, acai, all of those are not recommended. You have to remember that the skin, and not just the skin, even the seeds, but especially the skins of these plant foods is where you have the most concentrated amounts of those what we call anti-nutrients or plant self-defense chemicals. And so unfortunately, the vast majority of dietitians and researchers, because they get so much money from the food companies who have an invested interest in promoting their products, they have a bias in their minds. They really want to try and prove that those foods are healthy. And so now when they're looking at the research, the way that they interpret the research is that, oh, those anti-nutrients or plant self-defense chemicals are actually antioxidants, right? And so you have the greatest amount of researchers believing that those are antioxidants that are good for us. But if you actually pay attention and you actually search the history of those anti-nutrients, the definition is that it is a plant self-defense chemical specifically produced by the plant to prevent you from eating it. And so now, thankfully, because of social media and being able to share our work with more researchers, there's a growing number of doctors and public health educators and just people in general understanding that there's a ton of research in toxicology journals that are usually not read by the dietitians. And those toxicology journals are very clear about what those chemicals are. They are not antioxidants. They're antioxidant for the plant itself, not for the human.
Exactly.
And so
this is something that has to be spoken about a lot. because people are not aware of it, and you can't find them anywhere in any, as I said, like no dietitians or nutritionists will be saying this out loud. Either they're scared or they're not aware of it, or they're like not confident to say it out loud because they don't know the proper information. So yeah, I mean, this is something really, like you touched base. I mean, we did not agree to talk about this topic, but thanks for bringing it up, because this is something really, really, like, people grow up and think like, no, it's normal to eat fruits, and it's fruits. I mean, everyone should eat them,
Right.
but there are specific fruits that you should avoid. Yeah,
Yeah,
just like what you mentioned. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Just up until 300 years ago, none of those fruits ever existed in the history of humanity.
yeah,
Just every time you look at a fruit, let's say a banana, just go on Google and type in wild banana and look at the images. You will see something that there's no way you would
yeah,
ever. Yeah. Not only that, it's all seedy. It's like
yeah,
the most disgusting thing. It's all seeds and fiber. There is barely any sweetness there, right? Carrots, go and Google wild carrots. It's like this tiny little twig that's disgusting and all fibrous, you know?
sure.
We never had access to the carbs or the fibers, and we never ate that stuff. Even if you go and you observe modern day living tribes, they literally, if they can't get a hunt, a kill, so they can't get animal food, they will kind of like go by, or like the fallback foods are the tubers, things like sweet potatoes or yams or things like that. You can literally see them spitting out the fiber, like the
Yeah,
baobab fruit, you know? So
yeah,
you will
this is.
literally see them spit it out. It's disgusting, you know? No animal, no human would ever want to eat that, right? Unless
Yeah.
they are designed to be able to break it down, but not
Exactly.
us.
There's no nutrients at all in it. And people think that fiber is very important. Unfortunately, fiber, I think it's just in the last probably 10 years or more, it's been known like it's of its importance, because it lacks or helps slow down or make the stomach full, to make people not consume and eat a lot of food. But to be honest with you, we don't need it. We don't
No.
need fiber
Yeah.
at all. Like, yeah,
The only reason you want to eat more food is because you're adding carbs to your meal plan. If you stick with just meats, you will naturally not eat more, and then you don't have to force yourself to ingest fiber, which by definition humans cannot break down. By definition, we cannot digest. This whole idea that plants are good or that we need fiber came from the co-founder of the American Dietetics Association. She claimed to receive visions from God that told her that a vegetarian diet is a healthy diet, right? And that's going to help you get closer to God. That was it. It was all ideology. It had nothing to do with science. But because she co-founded the Academy of Dietetics, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, this is what they called it now. It used to be called the American Dietetics Association. Now she's writing the programs to train the dietitians. And so she is so brainwashed in that stuff from an ideological point of view. And in her cookbooks, she will like put quotes about not hurting animals and stuff. So it was like, it had nothing to do with health. And
no,
so
no,
now you've got dietitians being trained from an authority figure that, oh, this is a healthy diet, and you get like anything else is a bad. And we're
yeah, yeah.
still
That's
dealing with this. Yeah.
yeah, and then people still believe in those people because they had like a proper academic education. And who are we to talk about this? This is outside our literature. This is outside of the
Right.
curriculum. So no, you're just making a big sin. So yeah, I mean, you touched a very important base about the fruits and the plants and how they used to look in the past. Yes, they are still called fruits and they're still called vegetables, but are they the same? What did the human being interfere with it, and what did they do to this to make it look so shiny, so good looking, like it is right now? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and it's all part of the
Exactly.
marketing. Yeah, it's a whole nother level of marketing and selling products. But
Yeah, it's profit. It's literally being like a drug cartel. That's what it is. People understood that the sweet taste is a drug, and it is more addictive than heroin. We have plenty of studies that show the evidence. If you go back to 2017, we've got 3 studies that I'm very familiar with that show that. And since then, it's accumulated even more. So if you have a drug that's more addictive than heroin, but the politicians haven't wisened up, and us as consumers, we aren't aware enough to be able to pass laws and regulate it. So now you've got the people who figured it out, which are the food industry manufacturers, and also even the farmers. They know that if they can hybridize an apple that has more sugar, it's going to sell more. It's like, it's like free drug money. Let's do it. That's what
in
it
the
is.
form of fruits
And so no diet in the world is ever gonna work long term, because we've all lost weight and maintained it for a couple months, and then it all comes back. The easiest thing in the world is to lose a few pounds, or even lose 100 pounds. That's easy. That's not what you want. Is to maintain it and have that food freedom, where you're not every single moment of the day thinking about what you're going to eat, how much you're going to eat, when are you going to work out, should you work out extra in order to fit that, oh my God, it's like you don't have a lot of
calories and burn it in the gym. And you are blamed that you're not doing well in the gym because you're eating loads of calories. That's how they fool the people. And like, poor guys, they come and kill themselves in the gym. Where you can, if it's for weight, you can go and lose the weight at home, sitting on your own sofa, eating the right things, and you can lose that weight. But the reason why you need to come to the gym is more than just losing the fat or burning those calories, which I don't believe in. So the reason why you need to come to the gym is to build the muscles which you need. This is something that we're not talking about. Muscles are very, very important for your longevity. Muscles are important for your metabolic health. Muscles are important for your insulin sensitivity. Building muscle helps you live longer. Stand up tall, be strong to carry yourself, carry your children in the future. So that's the reason why you come to the gym. One of the other reasons is like to release the stress in the gym. And we know all about like how we all started, most of us, we started in the gym because we were all stressed out. We came and we found our pleasure in the playground of the gym to release that stress. If you want to lose weight, you can sit at home and lose weight by eating the right food, taking care of your body.
Eat meat, everybody. And I'm gonna add one more thing. I had to put that in there. I'm gonna add one more thing too. D2 receptors, dopamine receptors. So here's what happens when you get hooked on sugar. Every time, remember we said like every time you got that hit of sugar, you destroy some of the receptors for dopamine. And that's really important to know, because it's not about just releasing dopamine to feel good and have energy, be productive, right? It's about the dopamine being released and then attaching to its receptor. It's like a lock and key situation. Once the attachment happens is when you feel this high, you feel all the energy in the world, you feel so amazing, and you're so motivated. So we want all the dopamine that we're releasing to have a bunch of receptors in our brain to attach to feel so amazing. The problem is the more sugar you eat, and not just sugar and fat is actually even worse addictive food. That combination destroys even more dopamine receptors, right? And so what ends up happening is that now you're eating all the sugars every day, the cakes, even things like oatmeal, and you add the syrup on it. All the stuff is destroying your dopamine receptors. And so now the next day you really have no choice but to eat those foods again, because if you don't have enough D2 receptors. So now you feel depressed and you're like, why am I feeling this way? Oh, I need energy. Let me do some more oatmeal. It's like, no, you're entering a worse cycle. So exercise, and the more intense the exercise, the more it regenerates the D2 receptor, so that you don't feel those withdrawal effects from not taking the drug anymore.
Exactly. That's the help of exercise. And also, like you talked about dopamine, I mean, and the receptors. It's not just sugar. I mean, sugar, cocaine, alcohol. What else? There's one more.
Nicotine.
Nicotine. Exactly. So it's all addictive. So it's the same thing. So that's why, again, back to the sugar thing. Please, guys, cut sugar.
Yeah. Honey as well. Great question.
Yes.
How about honey? The most insulin spiking thing on earth. No good. I agree with you 100%. Unfortunately, we have influencers, especially in the carnivore community, that are recommending a lot of honey. But I mean, I'm not going to say that they're recommending it because honestly, I haven't been watching their content lately. So I don't know if they're saying it. I doubt that they would say that for, but it's just because they're doing it a lot. I think people are getting the impression that they can do it. And not to mention this spike in insulin, which destroys all of your organs, leads to advanced aging, all this stuff. It also destroys your D2 receptors. It's a drug.
That's
It is a
insane.
sweet
Yeah,
taste,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's one more thing that I wanted to ask, because this is a question that I would love to have answers to. I don't think we have the answers for it yet, but it's good to research about it and find some answers. It's like, for example, here in the Middle East, we have lots of palm trees and we have dates.
Mm.
Why do dates grow in this area of this part of the world? Why doesn't it grow, for example, in the US? And you have to import it there. There are certain food which grow in certain areas, which is spread out differently in the world. I mean, there's a reason behind it. I think it's related to the climate. I think it's related to some other questions. So, for example, the honey as well. Honey right now is very easy to access and get out of the shelf easily. Get it from the shelf. But in the past, for you to eat honey, how was it difficult? I mean, how would you get access to that honey? These are questions that we have to ask ourselves before we go and consume anything. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you know the answer, why? I mean, I'm always asking myself, why do we have more dates than any other fruit? Why we can't grow bananas,
Yeah.
for example?
No, of
Why
course, the
bananas are grown in
climate.
the
Yeah, the climate definitely determines what kind of food or plant is going to grow. And so with honey, it was very rare, and only if you wanted to fight all the bees that are going to come at you were you able to get some amount of honey. And that's only if you got to it before the bears got to it, And so it wasn't this thing that was at our disposal all the time. And we got to remember too that for a very, very large portion of our existence as a species here on Earth, we were in an ice age, meaning that plants couldn't grow. And that's why we hunted woolly mammoths and those large animals, simply because that was the only thing that grew, that was able to survive in an ice age. There were periods of time during the millions of years of our evolution where the climate warmed up a little bit. But if you, and I actually went and I did the math, I remember once, and I looked at all of the periods of the warming up of the earth versus all of the periods of the ice age, and it's like for 99.99% of our existence as a species here on earth, our DNA has been exposed to ice age conditions, basically where we ate protein, animal protein and animal fat, and that was it. Almost zero carbs.
Yes.
And that's why we didn't have those deserts available to us for an appreciable amount of time. This is all very recent.
Exactly.
Yeah. And let me see. So we have 5 more minutes, unfortunately, because Instagram has instituted this new. What is this thing? I used to be able to do longer lives, and now all of a sudden it didn't even warn us. I was doing a live, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, 20-second countdown. Like, wait.
Yeah. I haven't gone live on Instagram quite often, but I realized this 1 hour only limit that I have given. Yeah.
Right. Do you have a YouTube?
I do, but I've not been posting that much on it. But the long podcast that I do recorded on video, I do try to post them there.
Yeah.
Once they're ready.
Me too.
Yeah.
I will repost this. I will save this on. I'll invite you as well. No pressure, but I always invite the other person if they want to collaborate on the post. Yeah. And then I'll I always download it and then I post it on my YouTube, and I'll make sure to link all of your socials. Where can people find you to learn more about everything that you have to offer?
Well, I'm very much active on Instagram at the moment. Like this is my home, I would say. So Instagram, and I do reply to almost everyone who texts me. TikTok, I just post exactly the same thing there. YouTube, I'm trying my best to find extra hours during the day to do extra work on top of what I'm doing right now. So
Right.
yeah, it's quite difficult and challenging, but I'm trying my best to be active on all social media platforms. But
I
I
know.
would definitely just say right now, just Instagram is my only
Your main,
platform,
yeah,
which I'm,
yeah. I know the frustration. Trust me, I'm actually right today. I'm gonna get on Fiverr and try to look for somebody to help me do the reels and stuff because it's a lot, you know. I feel like if I
it
just focus
is.
on like being on camera, doing the interviews, doing the research part, those are things that I cannot have somebody replace me. And then
Absolutely.
everything else I want to try and outsource because yeah, you want to be on top of all the social medias, but at the same time, it's overwhelming.
I mean, you're lucky because your content are mostly in English, but I'm struggling to find on some people who do both English and Arabic at the same time because I have to do the subtitles, I have to do sometimes translations. My videos are either Arabic, meaning talking in Arabic, and then the subtitles are in English, or vice versa. So to find people
Right.
who are really outsourcing this kind of content is quite challenging. But for you, I think you will be lucky to have more people who can help with way
Right.
much cheaper prices. Yeah.
Right. Right. Because you need somebody who knows how to do all the stuff in Arabic and type it. It's difficult to type in Arabic.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. This is
I tried.
this is a different question, which is really interesting. I just saw it right now. Are
Yeah.
dried dates or dried fruits good to go?
Dr-
Dried
No, it's
fruits.
worse. It's
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
No, it's pure candy. No, I remember when I teach at Miami-Dade College nutrition courses. Actually, before Miami-Dade, I used to teach at the University of Miami while I was doing my PhD there. So I would also be teaching exercise and nutrition courses. And I remember in my slides to my students showing them the graph of how much sugar is found in dried fruits versus in candy like Hershey's or Mars or it's so close. It's almost, you're eating candy. It is the
Yeah.
worst. Don't do it. Don't do
Yeah.
it, obviously, for the addiction component and also just for your health. It's not just about, like we talked about, it's not just if you have visible body fat, it's also your internal health. Alzheimer's is now being called type 3 diabetes. It's
Yes.
every
Yes.
every system in your body
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Alzheimer's,
doing it.
type 2 diabetes. Yeah, I heard the same thing also recently, and I'm really interested about it. Yeah, great. I
Yeah.
think we have less than a minute. Really, thank you very much for inviting me, Dr. Sarah. I believe this was quite informative for the followers and for the people. And from my side, I learned something also today from you, and I'm really happy to be live with you here.
Thank you so much, Saif Al-Yasi. It was really a pleasure to meet you. I kind of miss it. I kind of miss, like you remind me of home in the Middle East. And so
Please
that
let me
was
know
really
anytime you come over to Dubai.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. And maybe we'll do some more collabs in the future. This was like kind of
definitely.
like just trying to get to know one another. And
Definitely.
maybe we'll do another one with the Q&A because I know we got a lot of questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to answer all of them,
Yeah,
but
and
for sure.
I think also for the time right now, I think most of the people on this area, this side of the world is breaking their fast because it's Ramadan.
Right.
So there probably less engagement because of that. So maybe after Ramadan, we can plan for another live to have more people engaging as well.
Right. That's a great idea. Yeah, absolutely. All righty. Well,
Great,
thank
great.
you
Thank
so
you.
much, everyone. Yeah, nice,
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
nice to
Have a
meet you.
nice
Bye,
day.
everyone. You too.
Bye.
Bye.